Hello, this is Manny Ramos, your host of Rise Up, Real Issues and Stories of Every One of Us podcast. First, let me talk about who we are. I'm Manny Ramos, a board member of PNAA, a past president of the Philippine Nurses Association of Central Florida. I'm a professor of nursing at Valencia College here in Orlando and an adjunct faculty at William Patterson University. With me today is my co-host, Mindy Ofiana. Mindy?
Thank you, Manny. Hello, everyone. As Manny has said, I'm Mindy Ofiana, Legislative Committee Chair for PNAA and the corresponding Secretary for PNAA Foundation, was a past president for PNAA Southern California, and an adjunct professor at Charles R. Drew University, Department of Medicine and Sciences. Manny?
Thank you, Mindy. Today, we have a panel of guests who are here to talk about their chapter, PNAA Metropolitan DC. We have Carol Robles, President of PNAA Metropolitan DC and the Chair of PNAA Communications and Marketing and Co-Chair of the NOMELEC. Lourdes Carriega is the Senior Certification Outreach Specialist at the American Nurses Credentialing Center, a subsidiary of the American Nurses Association in Silver Spring, Maryland. Lourdes is the immediate past president of PNAA Metropolitan DC and the chair of the Wellness Committee. And we also have Christine Pabico, the director of the Pathway to Excellence program at the American Nurses Credentialing Center. She's also the president-elect of the Philippine Nurses Association of Metropolitan DC. Christine, Lourdes, and Carol, welcome to Rise Up.
Hello.
Wow. It's really good to see you guys. Hope to see you at New York. Anyway, my first question is, were you all guys born here or were you born in the Philippines? And how did you come here to the United States? So we can start with Lourdes.
Mindy, thank you for inviting us. This is great. I've been watching Rise Up, and it's thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak about PNAMDC. So I wasn't born here. I was born in Pagsanghan, Laguna, actually, but I grew up in Manila and had graduated from Far Eastern University. And soon after having a year of working in an ICU unit in the Philippines, I got an opportunity to work at Carilion Roanoke Memorial Hospital in Southwest Virginia. So my career started off in Virginia, and now had taken two different places in Innova Health System as a nurse clinician and a nursing manager. So I wasn't born here, but technically I have probably lived in this country longer than I have lived in the Philippines.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for the question.
I see. All right. Carol?
Yes, I wasn't born here too.
Carol.
I was actually... Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you can't hear me. I was actually born in Manila, and I won't say the year, I came here as a working visa, under the working visa, H-1B, and my career has always been long-term care since 1991 up to now, and I enjoy working with elderly and meeting their families.
I see. Christine?
Hi. So very similar to Lourdes and Carol, I was also born in the Philippines. I actually grew up in Quezon City, and I came here when I was 14. And at that time, I was a freshman in high school. So, finished high school here, attended George Mason University for my undergrad in nursing and also my master's. And ended up actually working at the Innova Health System, the same system that Lourdes worked at.
Wow.
I see.
Quite a diverse guest tonight as far as their backgrounds are concerned. Now, we invited you here tonight to highlight your chapter, the PNAA Metropolitan DC. You've been in the news lately, with the PNAA, and also you've been receiving awards. So we want to highlight your chapter just so the other chapters can also learn from you. So I'm going to start and ask Carol, how is PNAA Metropolitan DC today?
We are growing, and we are growing fast. But I'm
Uh-huh.
sure, there will come a time that, it will stop. But we have grown 125% since July 2021. And we
Wow.
hope to retain a lot and recruit more of these members.
Uh-huh.
We have been very busy, and Christine can talk about it later. We received a big grant from Montgomery County, and we are very happy that we have
Mhm.
collaborated with the Philippine Medical Association of Metropolitan Washington, D.C. What
Oh,
else? Our members,
Okay, so I
I
have another.
think.
Go
Okay, go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Carol. Finish it.
No, no, no. I wasn't sure if I'm gonna continue or stop. When do I
Go
stop?
ahead. No, go ahead.
Huh? Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say that our members are younger compared to what we usually have. I
Ouch.
want to say that we have a lot of under 50s,
mhm.
and they're probably like maybe 60%. So
Wow.
we are very happy that PNAMDC will survive.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
see. All right. So, Christine, this question is for you. Um, Usually, before you go up, you're down, right? What were your experiences during the time that you were down that made you guys go 125% improved?
I think it was very difficult before, well, especially, during the pandemic,
Mhm.
just being able to retain the nurses. But I think because our chapter has remained relevant and visible, throughout that time and really offering so many different resources and support to the members. And, even just other Filipino nurses in the community, that we were able to stand out, and Filipino nurses realized that there is value to joining the association. And I think the one thing that Carol has done a wonderful job in is really engaging the new members. That now I think part of the success of the great numbers that we're seeing is because the new members are starting to recruit their friends to also join the
Mhm.
association.
Nice. Lourdes, you are the immediate past president of PNA Metropolitan DC. How was it? How you had what, 2 years term?
Yeah,
How was
it was
that? How
actually,
was that for you?
it. I guess it's. I would describe it as a really bittersweet term.
Uh-huh.
There's lots of great things that I could relate happen. I mean, despite the COVID, but I think I just wanted to like sort of state how beautiful is this that we're talking about a chapter and we have the past, the present, and the future leader
Yes.
here together
Yes.
talking about how our chapter has been. And yes, it's a past leadership that I had, but I think pretty much as how we have been through many years, the
Mhm.
chapter's success is probably because of the continuous support that leaders after leader, or
Mhm.
even officers who are very committed in pushing the mission of the organization forward, stays through despite the pandemic. And I could I could state that when I was inducted in 2019, I was on top of the world, thinking like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting! I could do something about the organization, do a little bit
Mhm.
more for it, engage members. I mean, I had great committee chairs working with me, and we had really great goals. We have a strategic leadership retreat that we put together. I mean, even before with Joy Arellano as the past president, we were like having these strategic goals in place on how we
Mhm.
could move the organization forward. And we were excited for 2019 to 2021, and then COVID happens. But
Right.
despite that, I think we grew a lot from it. We created the value and continued to sustain the value of the
Mhm.
organization. A lot of the organizations suffered with
Mhm.
membership. And I have to
Right.
be I have to attest, it was really a struggle to get members, to renew. How could you when safety is a compromise? So I
Right.
think in 2020, although we took a dip in our membership, our numbers really went up with the efforts of Carol Robles, on the onset of the new normal to try to
Yeah.
invigorate the members to come in. And I think they see the value that the organization has in trying to really raise up the Filipino American nurses. And I think with PNAA aligning ourselves with the goals and initiatives of PNAA, we were able to really sustain that. And I think I just want to make sure that I state that.
Cool.
Well, and Manny, if I may add something, as well, I
Yes.
think we always hear about the statement of, standing on the shoulders of giants, right? And, that
Yes.
was
Yeah,
absolutely the case, I believe, because, Lourdes is absolutely right. Even though there were a lot of difficulties, especially during the onset and the peak of the pandemic, as I mentioned earlier, it was during her term when, she made sure that we had so many different initiatives to make sure that, we
Yeah.
are staying relevant and visible, in the nursing community. And, because of that, when Carol took over, and of course, with all of the other innovative ideas that she had, she was able to leverage on the success and the effectiveness of, all of the things that, Lourdes has put in place. So even for myself, I look forward. I know I'm stepping in, these are big shoes to fill, but I definitely am looking forward to building on the things that they've already put in place.
Wow.
So, with all those things that has been mentioned, Carol, what is one thing that you can be proud of as the past president that you created in making sure that you have sustained 125% increase? What was that? What project or strategic plan you are proud of to share with me so I can tell PNA Southern California as well?
Well, thanks to ILDP, membership recruitment and retention is actually my project management plan,
Yes.
and I was privileged to present it during the Leadership Institute in
That's right.
Georgia,
That's right.
PNA, Georgia. Looking at it though, I had to do some changes. It's not exactly the plan that I made. I had to make some adjustment, but with the same end goal of still recruiting more members and making them feel that they belong to the organization. I try to friend them on Facebook. I message them through that. I also text them. One thing that I started with the membership is that with our membership packet, we usually give a T-shirt for our new members. So our treasurer usually mailed that. So I told her, I want to do it. Let me do the mailing because I want to put a little note coming from me, welcoming them from the president. So I write my little notes. I put a PNA MDC pin, and I put a car sticker and the T-shirt, and then I mail it myself. And they're very happy when they receive it. They do send me text or email, and I think that is something that they're probably looking for.
Good. Good.
See, wow, that's something we can
Yeah.
relate.
Yeah. Christine, Carol mentioned a while ago about a grant. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Sure. And, I would consider that probably another great accomplishment that, Carol, has encouraged us to do. I think all of us, are aware of what nurses have gone through in the last couple of years. And, that's the reason why when the opportunity came up from the Asian American Health Initiatives and also the Primary Care Coalition to apply for this grant, we quickly jumped on it. And when I say we, that's Carol pushing us to jump on it. But, we knew that we wanted to offer resources to support our nurses, and this was one way. And, we were very
Right.
fortunate that the proposal that we submitted was selected and we received a grant for $75,000. So as you can
Wow.
imagine,
Wow.
yeah, that money is huge, for
Nice.
us. So
Wow.
that enabled
It
us to put
is. It
together
is.
That's
a
huge.
comprehensive Heal the Healers program, which included a
Uh-huh.
well-being webinar series. It included peer-to-peer support groups. And then because we know that there's correlation between heart health and mental health, we also included ways to get nurses moving. So we offer the steps challenge. And because Filipinos love to dance, we also offer the dance to wellness event, to help ease some of the nurses' stress in a fun and joyful way.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So, okay. I'm at a loss to ask a question since I'm just admiring things that you are just mentioning, guys. So, if there are, this question is for the three of you. Describe with one word what PNA Metro DC is. One word. So, Lourdes?
Wow. I'm going to be the first one to say what one word I can
What one
use to
word?
describe
Yeah.
MDC.
Hmm.
I would go to the word growth. It has never stopped growing. And to me, I think as focused as it has been since its inception in early 1979 or something, and for focus on medical missions and 18 medical missions down, that we have completed. I think growth is part of it, and it's not, it hasn't stopped. I mean, it's
Mhm.
unstoppable. That's the word. It's unstoppable.
Yeah.
I change it.
Okay. Carol?
I don't know. I also want to say we're resilient. You
Uh-huh.
probably don't know, but PNA MDC way back had, some problems. To PNA MDC at one time,
Oh.
but we have outgrown that,
Oh,
and yes, and our leaders really made it to the top, and now we're here. So
Mhm.
I want to say we're also resilient.
good. Christine?
Well, and I want to think that, we're very intentional in
Mhm.
what we do to support the members and the community that we have. So just to give you an example, with the well-being webinar series that we offered, there were 5 topics that we selected. And again, we were very intentional in those topics. So in the first webinar, we discussed the current state of the mental well-being of our nation's nurses. And that's because we wanted to share the why. Why is it important to provide this Heal the Healers program? And then we followed that with the evidence-based strategies to mitigate stress and burnout. And then also followed that with a webinar about anti-Asian bias and hate, because we also recognize the negative impact that, that's had on our community. And then, for the fourth webinar, because we know that the ANF survey showed that more than 40% of nurses identified family finance as one of the top concerns outside of work. And we know that's so true for Filipinos. We offered a webinar that covered estate planning and also how to set ourselves up, for
Mhm.
financial wellness. So, I have to say that we got so much positive feedback from that webinar alone, and that probably had the most engagement
Uh-huh.
because many verbalized that they gained valuable information. And then to round it up, the last topic was about narrative medicine, because that was something that, was pretty new to us, even for me. I wasn't as familiar with it. But it was a great way because to end the webinar, series, because our speaker talked about how reflecting, writing, and also sharing our own stories can be a huge part of our healing. So as you can see, even in just thinking about that webinar
Wow.
series, we were
Yeah.
very intentional.
Yeah.
So those are great
Nice.
words: unstoppable, resilient, and intentional. I'll take those 3 words and bring it to my own
Very
chapter.
nice. Very nice. So as we move forward, we always want to think of opportunities and aspirations. So I want to circle back to Lourdes. I know you're the immediate past president, but we'll have Christine speak last because she's the president-elect. But let's start with you because you're the immediate past president. What opportunities and aspirations do you see? And are there any thoughts about that in relation to PNA Metropolitan DC?
We have to try as an organization, and I think Carol, as the current president, is already tapping in it. How valuable people are in any organization, and focus on membership, what truly is most meaningful. As Christine has mentioned, being intentional. Survey after survey, we want to really make sure that we are on top of what is our finger touching on the pulses of our members, like areas of opportunities to stay as relevant as we are, and how important it is for our Filipino American nurses to realize the impact that they can create, not just in practice, but within their community. And wanted to make sure that trifecta of where I am as a nurse practicing in my own setting, affecting my nursing profession, and how I could expand that in having the opportunity to do this in the community. PNAMDC has always been a great, I believe, a great nurturing environment for that purpose. And I've been a member of PNAMDC since I was recruited there in 2006. And so from there on, I just felt that opportunity for, like nurses finding out that their meaning and purpose is not just in their profession or their family, and it's in expanding it towards the community, is a testament to what Filipino American nurses are. And we had repeat surveys, and I wanted to share that with you. When we asked our members what is it that they find most valuable in being a member of PNAMDC, and that is topmost all the time, consistently, is to be able to give back. And the opportunity of our chapter to be able to give them that engaging environment, to be able to give back and be part of the community in a larger aspect, is what PNAMDC has tapped on as far as opportunities.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lourdes. Carol, what do you see as the opportunities and what are your aspirations as a chapter?
Okay, well, aspirations, Lourdes already talked about it. My first one is really more on community outreach, community service. And like what Lourdes said, that's what the members want. And so we are very involved, not just locally, but also internationally. And of course, most especially in the Philippines. We have several projects with the ATAS in Zambales. First one is about providing them with clean and continuous water supply, where we had funded around 23 Jetmatic hand pumps so that they can have clean water. Otherwise, they have to walk like miles to go to the river or somewhere to be able to get their water. We're also partnering with the same group, and we're very fortunate that Dr. Ramirez is very diligent in finding all these projects for us. And we are funding some training for the ITAs, like the carpentry, cookery, embroidery. We have given them solar lights so that for the first time in their lives, they have like light at night and they can actually read at night. I'm aspiring to have more of those because, it really feels good, once you see that you're able to help. And that's what our members want. Last one is education. Thanks to Lourdes, we have rolled out our success-based program in which we are giving opportunities for 3 of our members for this year to get their initial certification, nursing certification, and we will pay for it. So they will have 2 chances of taking it, and PNAMDC will shoulder the expense. So hopefully people will take advantage of it. And I think so far we already have at least 3 applicants. So I think we're good.
Nice. And Christine, as the president-elect, incoming as a president of PNAMDC soon, what opportunities have you been exploring or been interested to do? And what do you aspire PNAMDC to be in the next probably even 5 years, right? We look out that far.
Yes. Well, I think people who know me, Mindy and Manny knows that, one of my mantra is to never sin, sit in neutral. So I'm always finding opportunities, to improve anything, that I immerse myself in. And I think, Carol and Lourdes have already talked about the great growth of the association. But I think that we still have opportunities, for the retention piece. It's one thing, to be able to recruit someone, but, to be able to retain
Right.
them is another issue. And even
Right.
hearing from new members, that we may be lacking resources and things like that for them to really get to know what the different committees and initiatives are. I think those are opportunities that, even now, we can begin to work on. And I always, welcome feedback like that, because some people might think of that as negative feedback. I embrace those type of feedbacks because I think that's the type that, can elevate us, to a different level. And then when it comes to
Okay.
aspirations, I'm really focusing on, as I mentioned earlier, leveraging on the success that, Lourdes and Carol has already put in place, but also really focusing on two groups that, I feel really needs, the attention and also, our vulnerable population. And, those two groups are the new nurses that are graduating. They're entering our profession in such a difficult
Yes.
time that, I really
Right.
think that we need to provide resources for them to really make them feel supported. And then the other group are also nurses that are coming from, the Philippines. I've spoken to many hospitals across the nation, and they've opened up, recruitment again, right? And they're actually doing
Yes.
direct hires of Filipino nurses coming from, outside of the US. And, as we mentioned earlier, we all came here when we were teenagers. And I still remember the first couple of years, being the hardest. So how can I support those nurses that are coming in helping them with the enculturation? And, one of the things I've already started, and I shared this with Carol, is actually working with the chief nursing officers. So there's 2 hospitals now in Virginia that I'm working with, because my goal is to actually have them support the new nurses membership, to show them the value of making sure that those new nurses are members of the association. So those are my opportunities and aspirations. I'm sure that's going to be in addition to many more.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure. You guys have shared so many wonderful things with us today in a very short time. And I'm really inspired with all the things that you have shared.
Yes.
So, what would be a number one takeaway with all the many things that you have? What would be the number one takeaway that you want our viewers and listeners to know? And that as a successful chapter, getting all these awards and sustaining your gains, what would be the number one takeaway? I'll start with Carol this time.
Okay, I think it's leveraging with what you have already, which are your officers and past presidents. They are very knowledgeable. They could do a lot for your chapter and for your association. Like what they said, surround yourself with a lot of good people, good leaders, and you will see success. So I think that's what we have in PNA MDC. All of our committee chairs like Lourdes, Christine, Marisa Usman, Joy Arellano, Ida Imperio,
Yes.
and a lot more. They all bring in the best to the table.
How about you, Lourdes?
To me, I think it's like really the importance of reaching out, that you're not alone. As a leader of an organization, reach out. There are highly empowered officers who sometimes they're just shy to step up, and you just need to sort of provide them the necessary, like prodding or guidance. But it's just like, like every single officer that we have at PNAMDC has the potential of being able to do something and contribute to what the organization can do and make a total difference. And the importance and strength of partnerships and reaching out to similar like organizations that we have around us. The partnership with Philippine Medical Association started in 2020 during the peak of COVID. And it was with that we knew we were both struggling as an organization and how can we address vaccination hesitancy. Like PNAA is already addressing it with multiple partners. And I think as a chapter in Metro DC, we reached out to Dr. Cleon, and that's how the partnership went on to be able to get the grant task force going and to be able to have this, Heal the Healers program. We have focused initiatives that really had been because of collaborative work. The American Diversity Group, which is a multi-diversity group here in Montgomery County, has been our partner since our past president, Nora Mendoza. And we're still continuing on with those partnerships. I think leveraging on collaborative work and similar like organizations around us. And of course, trying to make sure that we continue to realign ourselves with PNAA's goals and initiatives keeps us a strong chapter.
Thank you. About you, Christine?
I have to say, can I say ditto, ditto, ditto? Because, I agree with everything else. But, I also want to say, making sure that we recognize people's contribution. Also making sure that, we recognize people's contribution and also, selecting, just like I said earlier, being intentional. And again, part of that is finding things that are meaningful, to the members and the officers. Because, just like the example of the grant that, we talked about earlier, we couldn't have done it without the shared commitment and the passion of every single member of the grant, task force. And, the amount of time sacrificed, the attention to detail, and the desire to make sure that every single event was successful were absolutely commendable. But, although they spent countless of hours planning the initiatives, for them, it was all worth it because they knew that the nurses that they were doing it for, was worth it. And I think when you do something that is meaningful to you, you just naturally shine. And in fact, even in our monthly meetings with our grant funders, AHI and PCC, they also shared with us how they considered us as their exemplars and how they presented our success story to their board. I mentioned that because, as I said, when you do something that's meaningful to you, you definitely get everybody's commitment and passion. And, that will make the association shine naturally.
Even with the very
Thank
short
you.
time that we had, you have shared very wonderful information from a very exemplary chapter, PNAA chapter, PNAA Metropolitan DC. I'm sure that our listeners and viewers will learn a lot from this episode. And on behalf of Mindy, Rodney, and our Rise Up team, I want to wish you the best as you move forward and upward. And that is all that we have for this episode. I want to thank our guests, Caro Robles, Lourdes Carriega, Christine Pabico, and my co-host, Mindy Ofiana. Our director and producer, Rodney Cahudo, Caro Robles, PNAA Chair for Communications and Marketing, our advisor, PNAA Foundation President, Nancy Hoff, and our executive producers, PNAA President, Dr. Marijoy Garcia Dia, and PNAA Executive Director, Carmina Bautista. Join us every week here on Rise Up. Until then, keep on rising. See you next week.
This publication was made possible by Cooperative Agreement CDC RFA IP 21-2106 from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Its contents are solely the responsibility of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of CDC HHS.